The rain came down in sheets that night, the kind that turns asphalt into mirrors and makes headlights blur into halos. Sky Holloway pressed her face against the cold window of the Greyhound bus, watching Texas flatten out into endless darkness. She was 14, running on 3 hours of sleep in a stolen granola bar, and she had exactly $47 left in the pocket of her dead brother's jacket. The jacket still smelled like him. Motor oil and cigarette smoke and something else she couldn't name. Something that meant safety back when safety was a real thing. She pulled the napkin from her other pocket and unfolded it carefully. The drawing was faded now, the ink bleeding at the edges from sweat and rain, and the 100 times she'd opened it to make sure it was still there. A jawbone wrapped around a serpent, flames curling up from the base. The letters LH stitched into the design like a promise. Luther had drawn this the week before he died. He'd slid it across the table at the diner where they used to meet in secret back when he was still fighting the courts for custody, back when he still thought the system would see reason. "You remember this," he'd said, tapping the drawing with one oil-stained finger. "If something happens to me, you find these guys. Iron Jaws, Motorcycle Club. Redwater, Texas. You show them this, and they'll know you're mine." Sky had laughed at him then, told him nothing was going to happen, told him to stop being dramatic. 3 days later, he was dead. The bus lurched to a stop, brakes hissing. The driver's voice crackled over the intercom. "Redwater. End of the line." Sky grabbed her backpack and stepped out into the rain. The bus station was barely a station, just a covered bench and a vending machine that looked like it hadn't worked since the 90s. She stood there for a moment, letting the rain soak through her shoes, and tried to figure out which direction to walk. A pickup truck rolled past headlights, cutting through the downpour. She caught a glimpse of a decal on the back window. A jawbone. A serpent. Her heart kicked in her chest. She started walking. Redwater wasn't much of a town. One main street lined with buildings that had seen better decades. A diner with a flickering neon sign. A hardware store with bars on the windows. A bar called Lucky's that looked like it had never been lucky for anyone. The garage was at the edge of everything where the pavement gave way to gravel and the streetlights stopped trying. Iron Jaws, MC members only. The sign hung crooked paint, flaking letters barely visible in the dark. Sky stood outside for a long time, rain dripping off her hood, staring at the metal door. She could hear music inside, classic rock guitars wailing over the drum of rain on the roof. Voices low and rough, the kind that came from men who'd spent their lives shouting over engines. She thought about turning around, thought about getting back on the next bus and disappearing into some other town, some other life. But she'd been disappearing for 3 years, and it hadn't saved her yet. She knocked. The music didn't stop, but the voices did. Footsteps. Heavy boots on concrete. The door swung open and a man stood there, backlit by the fluorescent glow of the garage. He was big, barrel-chested, with a gray beard and eyes that had seen too much. "We're closed," he said. Not unkind, just factual. "I'm looking for Gregory." "Moss," Sky said. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. The man studied her, took in the wet jacket, the too big backpack, the way she was shivering, even though it wasn't that cold. "Who's asking Sky Holloway?" Something shifted in his expression. Not recognition exactly. More like a question forming. "Holloway," he repeated. "Luther Holloway was my brother." The man went very still. Behind him, someone dropped a wrench. It clanged against concrete loud in the sudden silence. "Come inside," the man said finally. He stepped back, holding the door open. Sky walked into the warmth and the smell of oil and old coffee. The garage was bigger than it looked from outside. 3 bikes up on lifts, engines scattered across workbenches, tools hanging from pegboards on every wall. 5 men stood frozen in various states of work, all of them staring at her. The man who'd opened the door closed it behind her. "I'm Gregory," he said. She'd imagined this moment 100 times, practiced what she'd say, how she'd prove who she was. But now, standing in this place that smelled like her brother, surrounded by men who'd known him, she couldn't remember any of it. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the napkin. Gregory took it from her hands like it might disintegrate. He unfolded it slowly, and when he saw the drawing, his jaw tightened. He looked at Sky, then back at the napkin, then at the other men. "Where did you get this?" "Luther gave it to me," Sky said. "A week before he died. A younger guy, maybe mid-40s with paint-stained hands and a cautious expression, stepped closer. Hollow never mentioned a sister. He kept his life separate, Skye said, echoing words Luther had told her once. He didn't want those things touching. Gregory was still staring at the napkin. This design, he said quietly. Luther was working on it before the accident. He never finished it. He told me it was important, Skye said. He said if anything happened to him, I should bring it here. Another man, leaner, with graying temples and a wedding ring, spoke up. What do you want, kid? Skye looked around the garage. At the bikes, at the tools, at the men who were watching her with a mix of suspicion and something that might have been grief. I can paint, she said. Bikes, helmets, whatever you need. I'll work for tips. I just need a place to stay. The silence stretched out. Someone shifted their weight. Someone else cleared their throat. Gregory folded the napkin carefully and handed it back to her. Show me. He led her to a workbench where a stripped gas tank sat waiting for paint. He handed her brushes, set out cans of paint, stepped back. You've got an hour, he said. No tracing, no stencils. Show me what Hollow taught you. Skye set her backpack down, tied her hair back, and got to work. Her hands remembered before her mind did. The way Luther had taught her to layer colors, build depth, let the design emerge instead of forcing it. She didn't sketch first, just started painting her brush, moving in the same rhythms Luther's had. Smooth strokes for the outline, sharp flicks for the details, pressure and release, pressure and release. The men drifted closer one by one, finding reasons to pass by the workbench, pretending not to watch while watching everything. When she set the brush down, the tank was covered in a design that looked like it was moving. Flames that seemed to flicker, a serpent that seemed to coil, and in the center, rendered in stark black and white, the same jawbone from the napkin. Gregory stepped up to the bench. He ran his fingers along the edge of the design, careful not to smudge the wet paint. He taught you this, Gregory said. Not a question. Skye nodded. Every weekend, she said, from the time I was 8 until he died. Gregory looked at her for a long time, really looked at her past the wet clothes and the exhaustion, past the walls she'd built to keep herself standing. You hungry? He asked finally. She nodded again, not trusting her voice. Terry, Gregory said, glancing at the man with the wedding ring. Order pizza. Get the good kind. Terry pulled out his phone without argument. Gregory turned back to Skye. You can stay tonight. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. That night, Skye slept in the back office on a couch that smelled like leather and motor oil. Someone had left a blanket folded on the armrest. Someone else had put a bottle of water and a bag of chips on the desk. She lay there in the dark, listening to the distant sound of the men talking in low voices, and for the first time in 3 years, she felt something that might have been safe. When she woke up, sunlight was streaming through the grimy window, and the garage was already alive with the sound of work. She sat up, disoriented, and remembered where she was. Gregory was standing in the doorway holding a cup of coffee. Morning, he said. You sleep okay? Yeah, Skye said, which was only half a lie. He handed her the coffee. We need to talk. They sat in the office door, closed, the sounds of the garage muffled beyond the walls. Gregory set a folder on the desk between them. Old, worn, stuffed with papers that looked like they'd been read and reread too many times. This is Luther's file, Gregory said. Club records. Everything we kept on him. Skye didn't touch it. He joined the Iron Jaws when he was 19, Gregory continued. Rode with us for 6 years. Best painter we ever had. Could make a bike look like art. Skye already knew all of this. Luther had told her stories late at night when she couldn't sleep about the men he rode with, the roads they'd taken, the life he'd built. What he didn't tell us, Gregory said, was that he had a sister. He was trying to protect me, Skye said. From what? She looked down at her hands. From the system, from people who'd use me to get to him. Gregory leaned back in his chair. 3 years ago, Luther filed a petition for custody. Did you know that Skye's head snapped up? What he went to court, tried to get you out of wherever they'd put you. The petition was denied. Why, Gregory opened the folder and pulled out a document. He slid it across the desk. Skye picked it up, hands shaking. The language was dense, legal, full of words that didn't mean what they should, but the core of it was clear. Luther Holloway's petition for guardianship had been denied on the grounds that his lifestyle and associations posed a risk to the miners' welfare. They said no because of the club. Skye set her voice flat. Yeah, Gregory said. They did. Skye set the document down carefully. He never told me he tried. He didn't want you to blame yourself. When did he file this? Gregory checked the date, October 2019. He died 2 weeks later. The room went quiet. Outside, someone started up a bike, the engine roaring to life before settling into a steady rumble. You think it's connected, Sky said. I don't know, Gregory said honestly. The official report called it an accident. Lost control on a wet road, went over the guardrail. But Luther was a good rider, one of the best. Sky stared at the document, at Luther's signature at the bottom, at the date that marked the beginning of the end. Where have you been for the last 3 years? Gregory asked gently. Foster care, Sky said, bounced around. The last place was Valley Ridge Group Home. Gregory's expression darkened. I've heard of Valley Ridge. It's not good. How long were you there? 2 years. And you left. I ran, Sky said. 3 days ago. Gregory absorbed this. They're going to be looking for you, I know. If they find you here, they'll take you back. I know that too. Gregory stood up and walked to the window. He stood there for a moment looking out at the garage at his crew working on bikes that would carry them down roads they'd ridden 1,000 times before. Luther was like a son to me, he said finally. When he died, it broke something in this club. We lost a brother. And now you're here telling me he had family he was trying to save and the system stopped him. He turned back to face her. I don't know what the right move is, kid, but I know we owe Luther, and that means we owe you. I'm not asking you to risk anything, Sky said. I just need work. A place to stay for a few days while I figure out where to go next. Where would you go? She didn't have an answer. Gregory came back to the desk and sat down. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay, you're going to paint, and we're going to figure out how to keep you safe. You don't have to do this. Yeah, Gregory said. We do. Over the next few days, Sky fell into a rhythm. She woke up before dawn, before the crew arrived, and worked on whatever pieces they'd left for her. Tanks, fenders, helmets, fairings. She painted with the same focused intensity Luther had taught her, losing herself in the work, in the way colors blended and lines emerged. The crew got used to her. Terry brought her breakfast, sometimes sandwiches wrapped in foil that his wife had made. Jimmy the painter started leaving her better brushes, higher quality paint, little upgrades that made the work easier. A younger guy named Jeff, who couldn't have been more than 25, taught her how to use the airbrush for finer details. Lucy, the woman who handled the books and paperwork, was the one who finally got Sky to talk. Lucy was in her 50s, sharp-eyed with short gray hair, and a no-nonsense attitude that reminded Sky of a teacher she'd liked once. She came into the paint bay one evening with 2 cups of coffee and a look that said she wasn't leaving until she got answers. How old are you really? Lucy asked, sitting down on an overturned bucket. 14, Sky said, and you've been on your own for 3 days. Yeah. Lucy sipped her coffee. Where were you before Valley Ridge? Different homes. None of them lasted. Why not? Sky set down her brush. I don't play well with others. That's not an answer. Sky looked at her. They wanted me to forget Luther. Stop drawing. Stop talking about him. One place took my sketchbook and threw it away. Because they said I was living in the past. Lucy's expression tightened. That's when you ran. No, Sky said. I waited until they gave me a new sketchbook. Then I copied every drawing from memory. Then I ran. Lucy almost smiled. Luther would have been proud of that. They sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the garage filtering through the walls. What was he like? Lucy asked. With you, I mean. Not the version we knew. Sky thought about it. Patient, she said finally. He'd sit with me for hours, teaching me how to get the lines right, how to see the shape before you draw it. He never got mad when I messed up. He'd just say, try again, kiddo. You'll get it. Did he talk about the club sometimes? He said you were his family. He said Gregory saved his life once. Lucy nodded. Gregory pulled him out of a bad place, gave him purpose. Luther was lost when he found us. And then he found me, Sky said quietly. He never told us why he left. One day he just said he had something he needed to handle, and then he was gone. We thought maybe he'd gotten in trouble or found a woman or just needed space. We didn't push. He was trying to get custody, Sky said. Lucy already knew. Gregory had told the crew everything, but hearing it from Sky made it real in a different way. The system failed you, Lucy said. Both of you. Yeah, we're going to fix that. Sky looked at her. How? I don't know yet, Lucy admitted, but we will. That night, Lucy went home and started digging. She had access to legal databases through a friend who worked in family services, and she knew how to find things that people tried to bury. She found Luther's custody petition, found the denial, found the incident reports from Valley Ridge that had been filed and ignored, and she found something else, a sealed case file, an investigation that had been opened and closed within 2 weeks. The summary was brief. Allegations of abuse at Valley Ridge Group. Home. Investigation inconclusive. No charges filed. The date on the file was October 2019, 2 weeks before Luther died. Lucy sat back staring at the screen and felt something cold settle in her stomach. She printed everything and brought it to Gregory the next morning. They met before the crew arrived and the back office door closed. Lucy spread the documents across the desk. Luther wasn't just trying to get custody, she said. He was building a case against Valley Ridge. Gregory picked up the incident report. Abuse allegations, filed anonymously. Investigations shut down fast. Too fast. Someone buried it. Someone with influence, Lucy said. Gregory looked at the dates. He filed the custody petition the same week this investigation was opened. He was trying to get her out before they closed the case. And then he died. They sat with that for a moment, letting the implications settle. You think it wasn't an accident, Lucy said. I don't know what to think, Gregory said. But I know Luther. He didn't make mistakes on a bike, and he damn sure didn't lose control on a road he'd ridden 100 times. Lucy pulled up another document. There's more. The crash report says he was alone, but there was another accident that same night. Different highway, different county, but same time frame. Gregory leaned forward. Who Jackson Ventry? The name hung in the air like smoke. Gregory's jaw tightened. Michael Ventry's brother. Lucy nodded. Jackson was a guard at Valley Ridge. The pieces clicked into place, ugly and inevitable. Luther found out Jackson was abusing kids, Gregory said slowly. He tried to blow the whistle. Jackson found out, confronted him, and it went bad. That's my theory, Lucy said. But I can't prove it. The investigation was sealed. The crash reports don't mention each other. And Jackson's dead, so we can't ask him. But Michael knows. If he does, he's been sitting on it for 3 years, which means he's been waiting. Gregory stood up and walked to the window. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the gravel lot in shades of orange and red. If Michael thinks Luther killed his brother, Gregory said he's going to come for Skye. We need to move fast, Lucy said. Get legal protection in place before he finds her. He already knows she's here. Lucy looked up sharply. How Gregory pointed out the window. Across the street, parked in the lot of an abandoned gas station, was a black sedan. The same black sedan that had been there yesterday, and the day before that. Someone's watching, Gregory said. Lucy grabbed her phone. I'm calling Martha Clark. We need a lawyer, and we need one now. While Lucy made the call, Gregory walked out into the garage. The crew was starting to arrive. Terry pulled up on his bike helmet under his arm. Jimmy came in through the side door carrying a bag of breakfast burritos. Jeff was already at his workbench, sorting through parts. Gregory gathered them in the center of the shop. We've got a problem, he said. He told them everything. Luther's custody fight, the investigation into Valley Ridge, Jackson Ventry's death, the possibility that someone was watching the garage. When he finished, the room was silent. Terry was the first to speak. You're saying Hollow was murdered. I'm saying it's possible, Gregory said. And now his sister is here, and the dead guy's brother knows it. Yeah, Terry rubbed his face. Man, this is heavy. I know. What do you need from us? Gregory looked at each of them in turn. I need you to decide if you're in. Because if we're doing this, we're going all the way. We protect Skye, we fight the system, and we don't back down. But it's going to get messy, and I won't blame anyone who wants to walk. No one moved. We're in, Terry said finally. Hollow was family. That makes her family. Jimmy nodded. I'll talk to my guy at the county. See what I can find out about Ventry. Jeff pulled out his laptop. I'll dig into Valley Ridge. Public records complaints, anything that's not sealed. Lucy came back into the garage, phone still in her hand. Martha can meet us this afternoon. She says we need to move fast. Child services could show up any day. Gregory looked at Skye's paint bay, where the base tank she'd finished yesterday sat gleaming under the work light. Then we move fast, he said. Skye didn't know about any of it. She spent the morning working on a helmet, adding intricate details to a skull design that Jimmy had sketched out. She was so focused that she didn't notice when the crew gathered in the back office, didn't hear the heated discussion. Didn't see the way Gregory kept glancing toward the street. It wasn't until lunch that Terry pulled her aside. "We need to talk," he said. They sat in the cab of his truck, doors closed, heater running against the autumn chill. "There are people looking for you," Terry said. "Not just child services. Someone else." Sky's stomach dropped. "Who?" "We're not sure yet, but we think it's connected to your brother, Luther. He was investigating Valley Ridge before he died. We think someone didn't want him to succeed." Sky's hands clenched in her lap. "You think they killed him?" "We don't know, but we're going to find out." "Why are you telling me this?" Terry looked at her. "Because you deserve to know, and because we're going to need your help." "How? A lawyer's coming this afternoon. She's going to ask you questions about Valley Ridge, about what happened there. It's not going to be easy, but we need you to tell the truth." Sky's chest tightened. "I don't want to talk about it." "I know," Terry said gently, "but if we're going to keep you safe, we need ammunition. And the truth is the best weapon we've got." Martha Clark arrived at 3 o'clock in a sedan that had seen better decades. She was a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a briefcase that looked like it had been through a war. She shook Gregory's hand, nodded at the crew, and got straight to business. They met in the back office. Guy, Gregory, Lucy, and Martha. Martha set a legal pad on the desk and looked at Sky. "I'm going to ask you some questions," she said. "You don't have to answer anything you're not comfortable with, but the more you tell me, the better I can help." Sky nodded. "How long were you at Valley Ridge?" "2 years. What were the conditions like?" Sky stared at her hands. "Bad." "Can you be more specific?" The words came slowly at first, then faster, like a dam breaking. She told Martha about the overcrowding, the lack of supervision, the way staff treated them like problems instead of people. She told her about the punishments that didn't fit the infractions, the way personal belongings were confiscated without reason, the way complaints were ignored or met with retaliation. And then she told her about the things that were harder to say, the way certain staff members played favorites, the way some kids disappeared into back offices and came out different, the way everyone learned to keep their heads down and their mouths shut. Martha took notes the entire time, her expression neutral, but her pen pressing harder with each revelation. When Sky finished, Martha set down her pen. "Did you ever report any of this?" once Sky said. "To a social worker. She said I was being dramatic." "Do you remember her name, Ms. Patterson?" Martha made a note. "Did Luther know about this?" "Some of it. I didn't tell him everything. I didn't want him to worry, but he knew enough to file a custody petition." "Yeah," Martha leaned back. "Here's what I think is happening. Luther was building a case. He had evidence, or he was close to getting it, and someone shut him down. If we're going to fight this, we need to find that evidence." "How?" Gregory asked. "We start with public records. Complaints filed against Valley Ridge, staff turnover, financial audits, anything that shows a pattern. And we find other kids who were there, kids who might be willing to talk." Lucy pulled up her laptop. "I'll start reaching out." Martha turned back to Sky. "I'm going to file an emergency petition for temporary guardianship. We'll argue that you're unsafe at Valley Ridge and that Gregory is a suitable guardian. It's not going to be easy, and there's no guarantee we'll win, but it's the best shot we've got." "What do I need to do?" Sky asked. "Stay here, stay safe, and be ready to testify if it comes to that." Sky's hands were shaking, but she nodded. After Martha left, Gregory found Sky in the paint bay, staring at a blank tank like she couldn't remember how to start. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know," she said honestly. Gregory pulled up a stool and sat down beside her. "Luther used to sit right here when he was working on a tough piece. He'd stare at it for an hour sometimes, just thinking." "What was he thinking about?" "He said he was waiting for the bike to tell him what it wanted to be." Sky almost smiled. "That sounds like him." They sat in silence for a moment. "You don't have to do this alone anymore," Gregory said. "We're here. All of us." Sky looked at him. "What, because you're Hollow's sister?" Gregory said simply. "And that makes you ours." That night, Sky couldn't sleep. She lay on the couch in the back office, staring at the ceiling, and thought about Luther. About the way he used to ruffle her hair and call her kiddo. About the way he'd promised to get her out. She got up and walked into the garage. It was dark except for the security lights casting long shadows across the concrete. She went to her workbench and pulled out the napkin. The design Luther had drawn. The promise he'd made. She picked up a brush and a fresh tank and started to paint. She painted through the night, her hands moving on instinct, building the design layer by layer. The jawbone, the serpent, the flames, and in the center, something new. A figure on a bike riding toward light. When the sun came up, Terry found her asleep at the bench, the brush still in her hand, the tank finished. He looked at the design and understood. Sky wasn't just painting bikes, she was painting her way home. The black sedan was still there when Sky woke up. She'd crashed at the workbench neck, stiff from the awkward angle, and when she stumbled to the bathroom to splash water on her face, she saw it through the grimy window. Same car, same spot, same silent threat. Gregory was already in the office phone pressed to his ear, voice low and tense. Lucy sat across from him, laptop open, files scattered across every surface. They both looked like they hadn't slept. Sky stood in the doorway waiting. Gregory ended the call and looked up. His eyes were bloodshot but focused. Jeff found something, he said. Lucy turned her screen around. Valley Ridge has had 43 formal complaints filed against it in the last 5 years. 43. And every single one was dismissed or marked as unfounded. That's not possible, Sky said. It is if someone's protecting them, Gregory said. Jeff traced the facility's funding. They're privately owned, but they get state contracts, and the person who approves those contracts sits on the Child Welfare Oversight Board. Lucy pulled up a photo. A man in his 60s gray suit, political smile. Daniel Morse, he's been on the board for 12 years. Before that, he was a social worker. Before that, he ran a group home in Oklahoma that got shut down for code violations. Sky's blood went cold. He runs Valley Ridge. He owns it, Lucy said. Through a shell company, but yeah, he's the one calling the shots. Gregory stood up and walked to the window. There's more. Morse and Michael Ventry go way back. Childhood friends. Both grew up in Tulsa. Both got into social services. Young, both have records that look clean, but smell dirty. You think they're working together, Sky said. I know they are, Gregory said. He turned back to face her. Jeff pulled phone records. Ventry's been calling Morse 3 times a week for the last month. And last week, right after you showed up here, those calls doubled. Sky felt the walls closing in. So Morse knows I'm here, Ventry told him, Lucy said. And now they're both trying to figure out how to get you back. Why? Sky's voice cracked. Why do they care so much about one kid, Gregory? And Lucy exchanged a look. Because you're not just one kid, Gregory said quietly. You're the one who knows. He walked to the desk and pulled out a small object wrapped in a plastic evidence bag. A USB drive. We found this yesterday, Gregory said. Hidden in Luther's bike. The one we've had in storage since he died. Sky stared at it. What's on it? We haven't looked yet, Lucy said. We wanted you here when we did. Gregory plugged the drive into Lucy's laptop. The screen flickered and a folder appeared. Inside were video files, dozens of them, each labeled with dates going back 3 years. Gregory clicked on the oldest one. The video was shaky shot from a phone someone was trying to keep hidden. It showed a hallway at Valley Ridge, institutional green walls and fluorescent lights. The camera panned to show a door marked staff only and then pushed inside. What Sky saw next made her stomach turn. A storage room, metal shelves lined with supplies, and in the corner 2 staff members standing over a boy who couldn't have been more than 12. One of them was holding the kid's arm at an angle that made Sky wince. The other was going through the kid's pockets. The audio was muffled, but she could hear enough. Threats, demands, the sound of the kid crying. Gregory stopped the video. Luther filmed this, he said. Sky couldn't speak. Lucy clicked on another file. This one showed the kitchen after hours. Kids working cleaning equipment, hauling trash, while a staff member sat in the corner with a magazine. No supervision, no safety equipment. One kid, maybe 13, was standing on a chair trying to reach something on a high shelf when the chair tipped. The kid fell hard, and the staff member didn't even look up. Another file, the administrative office. A man Sky recognized as Daniel Morse sitting across from a couple money-changing hands under the table. The couple left with a file folder. Through the window, Sky could see them walking toward a van where a girl sat waiting, suitcase at her feet. He was selling placements, Lucy said quietly, taking kickbacks from people who wanted to adopt without going through official channels. Sky felt dizzy. How many videos are there? 37, Gregory said. Luther documented everything. Abuse, neglect, financial fraud. He was building a case that could have shut down Valley Ridge permanently. And then he died, Sky whispered. Gregory nodded. 2 weeks after filing the custody petition. 3 days after uploading the last video to this drive. Sky looked at the screen at the frozen frame of Morse counting money, and something clicked into place. Jackson Ventry, she said. He's in these videos. Gregory pulled up another file and hit play. There he was. Jackson Ventry, younger than his brother, but with the same cold eyes. He was in the rec room alone with 3 girls, door closed. The camera angle was bad, but the body language was clear. One girl had her arms wrapped around herself. Another was crying. The third stared at the floor like she'd learned that looking up only made things worse. Jackson was talking low and threatening. Then he reached out and grabbed one girl's chin, forcing her to look at him. The video cut off. Luther caught him, Gregory said, and Jackson found out. Sky's hands were shaking. The night they died. Luther was going to turn him in. More than that, Lucy said. She pulled up an email thread on her laptop. Luther sent a draft complaint to the state attorney general's office 2 days before the crash. He was ready to blow the whistle. He had evidence, witnesses, everything. But the complaint was never filed, Gregory said, because he died before he could finalize it. And Jackson died the same night, Sky said. Gregory sat down heavily. I was with Luther that night. He called me, said he needed to talk, said it was important. We met at a truck stop off Highway 35. He showed me some of this footage, told me he was going to the authorities. I told him to be careful that people like Morse don't go down easy. Gregory's voice was rough, breaking at the edges. We rode together for about 20 miles. Then Luther said he needed to make a stop. Personal business. I offered to wait, but he said he'd catch up. That was the last time I saw him alive. What stop? Sky asked. Gregory looked at her. I didn't know then, but I think he was going to confront Jackson. The pieces fell into place like shattered glass, reassembling into something sharp and terrible. Jackson worked late that night, Lucy said, pulling up staff schedules she'd somehow accessed. He was at Valley Ridge until 9 p.m. Luther died at 10:15. Jackson crashed at 11. Luther confronted him, Sky said. Told him what he had, told him he was going to the police. And Jackson panicked, Gregory finished. Ran. Luther went after him, trying to stop him or follow him, or maybe just trying to make sure he didn't disappear. They were both going too fast. Both lost control. Except Luther's crash was ruled an accident, Lucy said, and Jackson's was barely investigated because his brother convinced the sheriff that it was just bad luck. 2 separate incidents. Sky stood up, her legs unsteady. Michael knows. He knows what his brother did, and he's been protecting him anyway. More than that, Gregory said. Michael's been protecting Morse, keeping the secret, making sure no one asked too many questions. Why? Sky asked. Why not just let it go? Because if the truth comes out, Morse goes down, Lucy said. And if Morse goes down, all those contracts, all those payoffs, all those under-the-table deals, they all come to light. And Michael's name is probably all over them. Sky felt sick. So they need to make sure I don't talk. They need to make sure this evidence never sees daylight, Gregory corrected. And the best way to do that is to discredit you. Send you back to Valley Ridge. Make you look like a troubled kid with a grudge. Make sure no one believes you if you try to speak up. A knock on the office door made them all jump. Terry stuck his head in. We've got company. Through the window, Sky saw a white sedan pulling into the lot. Official plates. 2 people climbing out, one man in a cheap suit, one woman with a briefcase. Child services, Lucy said. Gregory was already moving. Sky, back office. Now, don't come out unless I tell you. Sky started to argue, but the look on Gregory's face stopped her. She grabbed the USB drive and ran. She hid in the storage closet behind the office door, cracked just enough to hear. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought they might hear it from the garage floor. Gregory met the caseworkers at the entrance. His voice carried calm but firm. Can I help you, Gregory Moss? The man said. I'm David Palmer from Child Protective Services. This is my colleague, Jennifer Wallace. We're here regarding a minor reported missing from Valley Ridge Group home. We have reason to believe she may be on the premises. You got a warrant? Gregory asked. We don't need a warrant for a welfare check, the woman said. We just need to verify that the child is safe. What child? Sky Holloway, 14 years old. Last seen 3 days ago. Gregory folded his arms. Haven't seen her. Mr. Moss, we have a witness who saw a young girl matching her description entering this facility 2 days ago. A lot of people come through here, Gregory said. Can't say I keep track of every kid who wanders by. The man sighed. Mr. Moss, if you're harboring a runaway, you're committing a crime. If you cooperate now, we can work something out. If you don't, this gets a lot more complicated. Terry appeared at Gregory's shoulder. You want to search the place, get a warrant. Otherwise, we've got work to do. The woman glanced past them into the garage. We're not trying to make this difficult. We're just trying to ensure the child's safety. If I see her, I'll call you, Gregory said. But right now, you're trespassing on private property. The caseworkers exchanged looks. The man pulled out a business card and handed it to Gregory. Call us if she shows up, he said, for her sake. They left, but Sky knew they'd be back. Probably with a warrant, probably with police. She waited until Gregory came to get her before she came out. We're running out of time, Gregory said. They're going to come back with legal authority, and when they do, we won't be able to stop them. So what do we do? Sky asked. We go on offense, Lucy said. She was already on the phone with Martha. We file the emergency petition today. We get ahead of this before they box us in. Martha arrived within the hour and they spent the afternoon building the case. Lucy presented the complaints against Valley Ridge, the pattern of dismissals, the evidence of corruption. Gregory provided character references, proof that the club could provide a stable environment. Terry talked about his own kids, about the importance of family, about why Sky deserved better than what the system had given her. And Sky told her story. She told Martha about the 2 years at Valley Ridge, about the staff who looked the other way when kids were hurting, about the punishments that crossed the line from discipline to abuse, about the way Morse would visit once a month walking the halls like he owned them because he did. She told her about the nights she ran, about the supervisor who'd found her sketchbook and thrown it away, about the way they'd told her to stop living in the past, to forget about Luther, to accept that she was alone. And that's when you left, Martha said. I waited until they were asleep, Sky said. I took the emergency exit. The alarm didn't work. It never worked. I walked to the bus station and used the money I had been saving from doing extra chores. I bought a ticket to Redwater because it was the only place I knew Luther had people who cared about him. Martha took notes. When Sky finished, Martha looked at Gregory. This is going to be a fight, she said. Morse has connections. Ventry has resources. And the system defaults to sending kids back to their assigned placements unless there's overwhelming evidence of danger. We have evidence, Lucy said, gesturing to the laptop. Luther's videos. They prove everything. They prove abuse happened, Martha said. They don't prove it's still happening. Morse will argue that staff has changed protocols, have been updated, that the facility is safe now. That's bullshit, Terry said. I know, Martha said, but it's bullshit that might work in court. Gregory leaned forward. So what do we need? Recent evidence, Martha said. Something that shows the problems are ongoing. And we need other voices. Kids who were there and are willing to testify. Lucy was already typing. I'll find them. Over the next 2 days, Lucy became a detective. She tracked down former residents of Valley Ridge through social media, through foster care forums, through court records. She found 18 kids who'd been there in the last 3 years. 12 wouldn't talk. 3 were unreachable, but 3 said yes. The first was a boy named Marcus, 16, now living with his grandmother in Oklahoma. He told Lucy about the isolation rooms, tiny closets where kids were locked for hours, sometimes overnight, as punishment for minor infractions. The second was a girl named Amber, 15, who'd been transferred to a facility in New Mexico. She described the way staff would withhold meals, medical care, basic necessities to enforce compliance. The third was the one who changed everything. Her name was Rebecca Hayes. She was 19, living in a small apartment in Austin, working 2 jobs to pay her way through community college. And when Lucy called her, Rebecca started crying. I've been waiting for someone to ask, Rebecca said. She came to Redwater the next day. Rebecca was small-guarded with eyes that had seen too much too young. She sat in the office with Sky, Gregory, Lucy, and Martha, and she told them everything. I was at Valley Ridge for 3 years, Rebecca said, from 14 to 17. It was hell, but the worst part wasn't the abuse. It was knowing that no one cared enough to stop it. Did you know Luther Holloway, Martha asked. Rebecca nodded. He came to the facility once, pretended to be a contractor checking the electrical system. But really, he was looking for someone, a girl named Emily. She was his girlfriend's younger sister, I think. Or maybe just someone he'd heard about. I never got the full story. Sky's head snapped up. He was looking for someone else. He found her, Rebecca said. Emily was in bad shape. She'd been at Valley Ridge for 6 months, and Morse had taken a special interest in her. If you know what I mean. The room went cold. Luther got her out, Rebecca continued. I don't know how, but one day she was there, and the next day she was gone. And Luther came back a week later asking questions, taking pictures. He talked to me, asked if I was okay, asked if I wanted help. What did you say? Sky asked. I said I was too scared, Rebecca said quietly. I told him if I tried to run, Morse would find me. He'd make sure I ended up somewhere worse. Luther said he understood. He said he was working on something bigger, something that would shut the whole place down. Did he say what? No. But he gave me his number, told me if I ever needed help to call him. I kept that number for 2 years. And then one day I heard he died and I threw it away because I thought there was no point. Martha leaned forward. Did anyone else know Luther was investigating Valley Ridge Jackson? Ventry knew, Rebecca said. He caught Luther one day going through files in the office. They had a fight. Jackson threatened to call the police, said Luther was trespassing. Luther said he had enough evidence to bury Jackson and everyone who worked there. Jackson laughed and told him to try. When was this? Gregory asked. Rebecca thought about it. October 2019. Maybe a week before Luther died. The same week he filed the custody petition. The same week he started uploading videos to the USB drive. Luther wasn't just trying to get Sky out, Lucy said slowly. He was trying to take down the whole operation. And they killed him for it, Sky said. Rebecca looked at her. You're his sister. Sky nodded. He talked about you, Rebecca said. He said he had a little sister who could paint like nobody's business. He said he was going to get you out no matter what it took. Sky's throat tightened. I'm sorry he didn't make it, Rebecca said, but I'm glad you did. Martha stood up. Rebecca, would you be willing to testify in court under oath about what you saw at Valley Ridge? Rebecca hesitated. If I do that, Morse will come after me. Morse is going to prison, Martha said. If we do this right. Rebecca looked at Sky. Two girls who'd survived the same nightmare, separated by years, but connected by the man who'd tried to save them both. Okay, Rebecca said. I'll do it. That night, Lucy sent everything to the district attorney's office. The videos, the testimonies, the financial records showing Morse's kickback scheme, the pattern of complaints and dismissals, the connection between Morse and Ventry, and then they waited. The response came faster than expected. The DA's office opened an investigation. Federal agents showed up at Valley Ridge at 6 a.m. and seized files, computers, everything. Morse was brought in for questioning. So was Ventry, but they weren't arrested, not yet. Martha called with the update. They're building a case, but it's going to take time. Weeks, maybe months. And in the meantime, Child Services still has jurisdiction over Sky. What does that mean? Gregory asked. It means the hearing is still happening, day after tomorrow, and we need to be ready. Sky spent that night working on the mural. She'd started it days ago, but now it felt urgent. She painted the crew, every member past and present. She painted Luther in the center, leaning into a turn, his expression fierce and alive. And behind him, she painted herself. Not as she was small and scared and running, but as she wanted to be, strong, free, riding towards something better. Gregory found her at midnight, still working. You should sleep, he said. Can't, Sky said. I need to finish this. Gregory looked at the mural, at Luther, at Sky, at the road stretching out before them. He'd be proud of you, Gregory said. Sky set down her brush. You think we're going to win? I think we're going to fight like hell, Gregory said. And whatever happens, you're not going back there. I promise you that. You can't promise that. Watch me. The night before the hearing, Ventry made his move. Sky was alone in the paint bay putting final touches on the mural when she heard the door open. She turned expecting Gregory or Terry. Instead, she saw a man she'd only seen in photos, Michael Ventry. He was younger than she expected, maybe 45, with the kind of face that might have been handsome if it wasn't twisted with bitterness. He stood in the doorway, backlit by the streetlights outside, and smiled. Sky Holloway, he said. Finally, Sky's hand closed around the paintbrush. Not much of a weapon, but it was something. Get out, she said. I'm not here to hurt you, Ventry said. He took a step in mine. I'm here to make you an offer. I don't want anything from you. You haven't heard it yet. He walked closer, hands in his pockets casual. Here's the deal. You drop the custody petition. You stop helping the DA. You go back to Valley Ridge quietly. And I make sure you're treated well. Private room, better food, maybe even art supplies. You're insane. I'm practical, Ventry said. You're just a kid. You don't understand the game you're playing. Morse has connections. I have resources. You're going to lose, and when you do, you're going to wish you'd taken my offer. I'm not going back. Ventry's smile faded. Your brother made the same mistake. He thought he could fight the system, thought he could be a hero, and look where it got him. Sky's vision tunneled. You killed him. I didn't touch him, Ventry said. But my brother did, and Jackson's dead now, so there's no one to prosecute, no justice for Luther, no closure for you, just the cold fact that sometimes bad people win. Not this time. Ventry laughed. You think a bunch of bikers and a small-town lawyer can beat me? I've been doing this for 20 years. I know every judge, every caseworker, every bureaucrat in this county. I know how to make problems disappear. Then why are you here? The question hung in the air. Ventry's expression darkened. Because you have something that belongs to me. Evidence that could hurt people I care about. And I want it back. The USB drive. Smart girl. You're not getting it. Ventry took another step. I can make your life very difficult, Sky. Or I can make it easy. Your choice. Behind Ventry, the garage door opened. Gregory stepped inside, followed by Terry, Jimmy, and Jeff. They spread out, blocking the exit. She already made her choice, Gregory said. Ventry turned, saw the crew, and his smile returned. Gregory Moss, still playing hero. Your boy Luther tried that. Didn't end well for him. Gregory's jaw tightened. You need to leave. Or what you'll call the cops. Go ahead. I'll tell them you're harboring a runaway. I'll tell them you're interfering with a custody case. I'll tell them whatever I need to tell them to make sure that girl ends up exactly where I want her. You're not taking her, Terry said. Ventry looked at each of them in turn. You're all making a mistake. But I'm a patient man. I can wait. He walked to the door. Paused, looked back at Sky. See you in court, he said. And then he was gone. Sky's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the concrete, shaking. Gregory knelt beside her. You okay? He knows about the USB drive, Sky said. Let him know. Gregory said, we've already given copies to the DA, to Martha, to the FBI. Even if he got the original, it wouldn't matter. He's not going to stop. Neither are we. The hearing was set for 9 a.m. They arrived at the courthouse early. Martha met them outside, briefcase in hand, looking grim. Morse's lawyer filed a motion this morning, she said. They're trying to dismiss the abuse allegations as hearsay, arguing that Luther's videos are inadmissible because he's not here to authenticate them. Can they do that, Lucy asked. They can try, Martha said. But we have Rebecca. We have Marcus and Amber. We have a pattern of evidence. The judge will have to weigh all of it. They walked inside. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled with fluorescent lights that made everyone look tired. Morse sat on the other side with his lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked like he ate small-town cases for breakfast. Ventry sat in the gallery watching. Sky sat between Gregory and Lucy, hands folded tight in her lap. The judge entered, an older woman with gray hair and a face that gave nothing away. We're here for an emergency petition for temporary guardianship, the judge said. Ms. Clark, you represent the petitioner. Martha stood. Yes, Your Honor. We're asking the court to grant temporary guardianship of Sky Holloway to Gregory Moss pending a full hearing on permanent placement. And you're opposing Mr. Sterling, Morse's lawyer stood. Yes, Your Honor. The state has already placed Miss Holloway at Valley Ridge Group Home, a licensed facility with trained staff. There's no legal basis for removing her. Ms. Clark, present your case. Martha did. She walked the judge through Luther's custody petition, the denial based on his association with the motorcycle club, the investigation into Valley Ridge that had been buried. She presented the videos, the testimonies, the pattern of complaints. She called Rebecca to the stand. Rebecca told her story. Calm, clear, unflinching. Morse's lawyer cross-examined, tried to poke holes, tried to suggest Rebecca was biased or unreliable. But Rebecca held firm. Then Martha called Sky. Skye walked to the stand on legs that felt like water. The bailiff swore her in. Martha asked her questions. Simple ones at first. How long had she been at Valley Ridge? What were the conditions like? What happened the night she ran? Skye answered each one, her voice quiet but steady. Then Morse's lawyer stood up. Miss Holloway, isn't it true that you've had behavioral issues at previous placements? I've had issues with people who hurt kids, Skye said. That's not what I asked. That's my answer. The lawyer frowned. You ran away from Valley Ridge. That's a violation of your placement. Why should the court reward that behavior? I didn't run away, Skye said. I escaped. That's dramatic language. It's accurate language. Martha objected. The judge sustained. The lawyer tried another angle. You claim your brother was investigating Valley Ridge. But isn't it possible he was just a troubled man with a grudge against the system? Skye looked at him. My brother was trying to save kids like me, and he died doing it. You have no proof of that. I have 37 videos that say otherwise. The lawyer paused. Videos that conveniently surfaced after his death. Videos he risked his life to take. The lawyer sat down. The judge looked at both sides. I'm going to review the evidence and issue a ruling by end of day. Court is adjourned. They waited. Hours stretched like years. Martha paced. Gregory sat still as stone. Skye stared at the wall and tried not to think about what would happen if they lost. At 4 p.m., the bailiff called them back. The judge had her decision. I've reviewed the evidence presented, she said. The allegations against Valley Ridge Group Home are serious and credible. The videos provided by Luther Holloway, combined with the testimony of Rebecca Hayes and others, establish a pattern of neglect and abuse that cannot be ignored. Skye's heart hammered. However, the judge continued. The question before me is not whether Valley Ridge should be investigated. That's a matter for law enforcement. The question is whether Gregory Moss is a suitable temporary guardian for Skye Holloway. Skye held her breath. Mr. Moss has a stable home, a steady income, and a support system. He has no criminal record. And he was a close associate of Skye's late brother, who clearly intended for Mr. Moss to look after her in his absence. The judge looked at Skye. I'm granting temporary guardianship to Gregory Moss effective immediately. There will be regular check-ins with child services. Any violation of the terms in this arrangement ends. But for now, Skye, you're staying where you are. Skye felt tears streaming down her face before she realized she was crying. Gregory put his arm around her shoulders. They'd won. Outside the courthouse, Martha shook Gregory's hand. This is just the beginning. We still have to fight for permanent custody. But this is a good start. Thank you, Gregory said. Rebecca was waiting by the parking lot. She hugged Skye hard. You did it, Rebecca said. Luther would be so proud. Skye couldn't speak. She just held on. Ventry appeared on the courthouse steps. He looked at them, his expression unreadable. Then he turned and walked away. It's not over, Lucy said quietly. I know, Gregory said. But we won today. That's enough. They drove back to the garage in convoy. Terry and Jimmy on bikes, Gregory and Skye and Lucy in the truck. When they pulled into the lot, the rest of the crew was waiting. They'd strung up lights, set out food, turned the garage into something that looked almost like a celebration. Skye walked to the mural, the painting she'd spent days creating. Luther riding at the center, the crew behind him, and herself finally rendered in full color riding toward the light. Gregory stood beside her. It's finished, he said. Yeah, Skye said. It is. That night, they ate and told stories and remembered Luther the way he deserved to be remembered. Not as a tragedy, but as a man who'd fought for what was right, who'd protected the people who couldn't protect themselves, who'd left behind a legacy that refused to die. And Skye, for the first time in 3 years, felt like she could breathe. But in the back of her mind, she knew Gregory was right. It wasn't over. Ventry was still out there. Morse was still fighting. The system was still broken. But tomorrow they'd fight again. Tonight, they'd earn their rest. The first threat arrived 3 days after the hearing. Skye found it tucked under the wiper blade of Gregory's truck. A plain white envelope, no return address, her name written in block letters across the front. Inside was a single photograph. It showed Skye walking out of the grocery store with Lucy. The angle was close, taken from across the parking lot with a zoom lens. On the back, someone had written 2 words in red ink, still watching. Gregory called Martha immediately. Martha called the police. The police took the photo, filed a report, and told them there wasn't much they could do unless someone made an actual threat. "This is a threat," Terry said, holding up the photo. "It's harassment," the officer said, "but it's not specific enough to warrant protection. We'll increase patrols in the area, but that's all we can do." After the police left, Gregory gathered the crew. "We're going to rotate shifts," he said. "Someone's with Sky at all times. When she's here, when she's out always. Nobody goes anywhere alone." Sky wanted to argue, wanted to say she could take care of herself. But the truth was, she was scared. Ventry had made his intentions clear. He wasn't going to let this go. The second threat came a week later. Jeff's car was vandalized outside his apartment. Windows smashed, tires slashed, and spray painted across the hood. "Back off or else," Jeff called Gregory at 2 in the morning, voice shaking. "They know where I live," Jeff said. "They know what car I drive. What if they come back?" "Stay at the garage," Gregory said. "Pack a bag and get here now." Jeff showed up 20 minutes later, hauling a duffel bag and a laptop. He looked exhausted, rattled in a way Sky hadn't seen before. "I've got a girlfriend," Jeff said. "She's asking questions. Wants to know why I'm suddenly sleeping at a garage. I can't tell her because if I do, she'll think I'm crazy." "Then tell her the truth," Lucy said. "We're protecting a kid from people who want to hurt her. If she can't handle that, she's not the right person." Jeff nodded, but Sky could see the doubt in his eyes. The pressure was getting to all of them. Terry's wife started asking why he was coming home late, why he was tense and distracted. Jimmy had to cancel a commission because he couldn't focus on work. Lucy was running on coffee and 4 hours of sleep, juggling the club's books while helping Martha build the case for permanent custody. And Gregory barely slept at all. Sky would find him in the garage at 3 in the morning, sitting in the dark, staring at nothing. Once she asked him what he was thinking about. "Luther," Gregory said, "wondering if I let him down, if I should have done more when he was building his case, if I could have stopped what happened." "You couldn't have known," Sky said. "I knew something was wrong," Gregory said. "He was stressed, secretive. I should have pushed harder, should have made him tell me what he was into. He didn't want to drag you into it." "He was my brother," Gregory said. "That's what family does. We drag each other into things." Sky sat down beside him. They stayed there in the silence, two people carrying the weight of someone who wasn't there to carry it himself. The break in the case came from an unexpected source. Lucy got a call from a woman named Patricia Shelton. Patricia was a former caseworker who'd worked with the county child welfare department 15 years ago. She'd heard about the investigation into Valley Ridge and wanted to talk. They met at a coffee shop 2 towns over. Patricia was in her 60s, gray-haired and sharp-eyed, with the look of someone who'd seen bureaucracy at its worst and walked away. "I worked with Daniel Morse when he was still a caseworker," Patricia said, "before he moved into administration, before he bought Valley Ridge." "What was he like?" Lucy asked. "Ambitious," Patricia said. "Always angling for the next promotion, the next opportunity. But there was something off about him. The way he talked about kids, like they were inventory instead of people." "Did you ever report him once?" Patricia said. "There was a case where a girl went missing from one of his placements. 14 years old, vanished overnight. Morse said she was a runaway, that it happened all the time. But I didn't buy it. I dug into the records and found that 3 other kids had gone missing from the same facility over 2 years. Lucy leaned forward. "What happened? I filed a report with my supervisor, requested an investigation. A week later, I was called into HR and told my services were no longer needed. Budget cuts, they said. But everyone knew it was because I'd asked too many questions." "Did they ever find the girl?" Patricia shook her head. "She was never seen again." None of them were. Lucy felt ice in her veins. "Do you have names, records?" Patricia pulled out a folder. Inside were photocopies of old case files, notes she'd kept from her time as a caseworker, documentation she'd held onto for 15 years, because she knew someday it might matter. Morse was connected to at least 7 missing children between 2005 and 2010, Patricia said. All from facilities he oversaw, all written off as runaways. And after I was fired, no one ever followed up. Lucy took the folder. "Can I keep this?" "That's why I brought it," Patricia said. "I should have done something years ago. Maybe if I had, Luther Holloway would still be alive." Lucy called Martha from the parking lot. Martha called the FBI. The FBI called the district attorney. And suddenly the investigation into Valley Ridge expanded into something much bigger. A task force was assembled. Federal agents descended on Morse's properties, his financial records, his associates. They interviewed former employees, tracked down missing children, followed money trails that led to shell companies and offshore accounts. And they found evidence of a trafficking operation that had been running for nearly 2 decades. Valley Ridge wasn't just a group home. It was a pipeline. Kids who didn't have family, who wouldn't be missed, were funneled through the facility and sold to people who wanted cheap labor, domestic servants, or worse. Morse kept the operation small, careful targeting vulnerable kids and covering his tracks with falsified records and cooperative officials. Michael Ventry had been part of it from the beginning. His brother Jackson had been a recruiter identifying which kids were vulnerable enough to disappear without raising alarms. And when Luther had discovered the operation, they'd killed him to protect it. The case broke wide open. Arrests were made. Morse was taken into custody along with 4 former staff members from Valley Ridge. Ventry lawyered up and refused to talk, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. Phone records, financial transactions, testimony from Patricia and Rebecca, and 6 other former residents who came forward once they knew it was safe. The media descended. News vans parked outside the courthouse. Reporters called the garage asking for interviews. Skye's face ended up on the evening news, identified as the girl who exposed the trafficking ring, even though she'd never wanted that attention. Martha filed a motion to seal Skye's identity, but the damage was done. Now everyone knew who she was. And more importantly, everyone knew where she was. Gregory installed security cameras around the garage, hired a private security company to patrol the lot at night, started carrying a gun he hoped he'd never have to use. "This is temporary," he told Skye. "Once the trial's over, once Morse and Ventry are locked up, things will calm down." But Skye wasn't so sure. She'd learned that some fights don't end just because you win a battle. Some enemies don't give up just because they're beaten. Some scars don't heal just because time passes. The trial was set for 6 weeks out. In the meantime, Martha was building the case for Skye's permanent custody. The temporary arrangement was working, but they needed something permanent, legal, unbreakable. The hearing was scheduled for the same week as Morse's trial. 2 fights happening simultaneously, both of them critical. Skye spent those weeks working. She painted bikes, helmets, anything the crew needed. She finished the mural and started another one, this time on the opposite wall. A memorial to the kids who hadn't made it out. 7 faces rendered in stark black and white, their names written beneath in letters that looked like they were carved from stone. Rebecca came back to help. She brought photos, descriptions, anything she could remember about the kids who'd disappeared. Together, she and Skye built something that refused to let them be forgotten. When the mural was finished, Gregory stood in front of it for a long time without speaking. "Luther would have wanted this," he said finally. "He'd want people to remember." "I want them to remember too," Skye said. The day before the custody hearing, Skye got a visitor, a woman in her 30s, well-dressed with kind eyes and a nervous smile. She introduced herself as Emily Brennan. "You don't know me," Emily said, "but I knew your brother." She invited her into the office. Emily sat down, hands clasped tight in her lap. "Luther saved my life," Emily said. 5 years ago, I was at Valley Ridge. I was 15 and I was in a bad situation. Really bad. And Luther found out somehow. He came to the facility pretending to be doing electrical work, and he got me out. Hid me at a safe house, helped me get emancipated, made sure I was okay. "I didn't know about you," Skye said. "He didn't tell anyone," Emily said. "He said it was safer that way. But he told me if anything ever happened to him, I should look after his sister. He said you were special, that you had his talent and his heart." Skye's throat tightened. "I heard about the trial," Emily continued. "I heard about what you've been through, and I wanted you to know that Luther's work didn't die with him. He saved me, and through you, he's saving others. That mural you painted those kids you're honoring, that's his legacy, and it's yours now, too." "I don't know if I can carry it," Skye said quietly. "You already are," Emily said. She handed Skye an envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten, dated 3 weeks before Luther died. "He gave this to me," Emily said. "Told me to keep it safe. Said if anything happened to him, I should give it to you when the time was right. I think the time is now." After Emily left, Skye sat alone in the office and opened the letter. The handwriting was Luther's. Messy, urgent, familiar. "Skye, if you're reading this, something went wrong. I'm sorry. I tried to be careful, but this thing I'm into, it's bigger and darker than I thought. Morse and Ventry, they're not just abusing kids, they're selling them. And I've got evidence that can bring them down. I know you're probably scared right now. I know you probably feel alone, but you're not. Gregory and the crew, they're good people. They'll take care of you if I can't. You've got something special, kiddo. You see the world in colors most people can't even imagine. Don't let anyone take that from you. Don't let them make you small or quiet or afraid. Paint, ride, live. Do all the things I won't get to do. And when you're old enough, when you're ready, finish what I started. Make sure those kids are remembered. Make sure people know what happened. Make sure Morse and Ventry pay. I love you. I'm sorry I couldn't keep my promise, but I'm trusting you to keep yours. Stay strong. Luther. Sky read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Then she folded it carefully and put it in her pocket, close to her heart. The custody hearing started at 9 a.m. The courtroom was packed. Martha had called every character witness she could find. Terry's wife testified about the stability of Gregory's home. Jimmy talked about Sky's talent and work ethic. Lucy presented financial records showing Gregory could provide for her. Rebecca testified again this time about how the Iron Jaws had created a family for a girl who'd lost everything. Morse's lawyer argued that a motorcycle club was no place for a teenage girl, that Sky needed structure oversight, professionals trained in child welfare. But the evidence was overwhelming. Gregory had completed all required background checks, parenting classes, home inspections. He'd proven himself capable and committed. And most importantly, Sky wanted to stay. The judge called Sky to the stand. Sky, the judge said, "You've been through a lot. You've lost your brother, survived abuse, fought for your right to choose your own future. What do you want?" Sky looked at Gregory, at Lucy, at Terry and Jimmy and Jeff sitting in the gallery, at Rebecca beside them, at the crew that had become her family. "I want to stay with Gregory," Sky said. "I want to finish what my brother started. I want to make sure those kids are remembered. And I want to paint." The judge nodded. "Then that's what's going to happen." She granted permanent guardianship to Gregory Moss. Sky was finally legally home. But there was still one more fight. Morse's trial began 2 days later. Sky wasn't required to testify she was a minor, and Martha had fought to keep her off the stand. But Rebecca was there, Patricia was there, Emily was there, and the evidence was damning. Luther's videos were played in court, 37 files showing years of abuse, neglect, trafficking. The jury watched in horrified silence as the truth unfolded frame by frame. Morse's lawyer tried to argue that his client had been unaware of what his staff was doing, that he'd been deceived, manipulated, that he was a victim too. But the financial records told a different story. Money trails leading from Morse to offshore accounts. Payments to Ventry for consulting services that lined up perfectly with children going missing. Communications between Morse and buyers negotiating prices for kids like they were commodities. The prosecution built an airtight case, and when they rested, Morse's defense had nothing left. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts: trafficking, abuse, conspiracy, fraud. Morse was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison. Ventry's trial came next. His lawyer tried to claim he'd only been following his brother's lead, that Jackson had been the mastermind. But the evidence showed otherwise. Ventry had been an active participant, a willing conspirator, someone who'd profited from the suffering of children for nearly 20 years. He was sentenced to 35 years. Valley Ridge Group Home was permanently shut down. The building was seized by the state and slated for demolition. 12 children who'd still been in residence were transferred to safer facilities, and caseworkers were assigned to check on them weekly. An investigation was launched into every facility Morse had ever been associated with. 7 more children were identified as missing and presumed trafficked. Recovery efforts began, though everyone knew the chances of finding them alive were slim. But 4 were found. 4 kids who'd been sold into domestic servitude, who'd spent years trapped in situations they couldn't escape. The FBI brought them home, reunited them with family where possible, placed them in protective care where it wasn't. And slowly the system began to change. New oversight boards were created. Mandatory reporting requirements were strengthened. Background checks became more rigorous. Facilities faced unannounced inspections. Caseworkers were trained to recognize signs of trafficking. It wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was better. And Luther's work, the work he died trying to complete, had made it happen. 6 months after the trials ended, the garage held a ceremony. They unveiled the mural, the 7 children who'd been lost. The faces Sky had painted with Rebecca's help, rendered in stunning detail, alive in a way photographs could never capture. Families came, parents who'd lost children, who'd spent years wondering what happened, who finally had answers, even if those answers brought more pain than peace. They stood in front of the mural and wept. They touched the painted faces. They whispered names. And Sky stood with them, holding Rebecca's hand, and promised that their children would never be forgotten. Gregory made a speech, short, simple, from the heart. Luther Holloway was my brother, he said. He died fighting for kids who couldn't fight for themselves. And his sister has carried on that fight. This mural is a memorial, but it's also a promise that will keep looking, that will keep fighting, that will never stop until every missing child is found and every person who hurt them is held accountable. The crowd applauded, news cameras filmed, and Sky felt something she hadn't felt in years: pride. That night, after everyone left, Gregory found Sky sitting in front of the mural. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," Sky said. "I think I am." Gregory sat down beside her. "You've done something extraordinary." "You know that, right? I just painted a wall." "You did more than that," Gregory said. "You gave those kids a voice. You made people care. You changed things." Sky looked at the faces on the wall. 7 children who deserved better, who deserved to be remembered. "Luther started it," Sky said. "I just finished it. He'd be proud of you. I hope so." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the distant sound of traffic on the highway. "What happens now?" Sky asked. "Now you live," Gregory said. "You go to school, you paint, you ride, you figure out who you want to be." "What if I want to be like Luther?" "Then you be like Luther," Gregory said. "But better, smarter, safer." Sky smiled. "I can do that." A week later, Gregory took Sky to the DMV. She was still too young for a motorcycle license, but she could get a learner's permit. And when she turned 16, he'd teach her to ride properly. They spent the afternoon practicing in the garage parking lot. Sky on Luther's old bike, the one Gregory had kept in storage for 3 years, waiting for the right moment to bring it back out. The bike was beautiful, a custom Harley with flames painted along the tank, Luther's signature style, rendered in the same precise detail Sky had learned to replicate. She started the engine and felt it rumble beneath her, felt the power, the freedom, the promise of open roads and endless possibilities. Gregory stood beside her, hand on her shoulder. "Take it slow," he said. "Feel the bike. Let it tell you what it needs." Sky nodded. She eased off the brake, gave it a little throttle, and rolled forward. It was shaky at first. She wobbled, overcorrected, nearly stalled out. But Gregory was patient, coaching her through it, telling her to relax, to trust herself. And slowly she got the hang of it. She made a lap around the parking lot, then another, each one smoother than the last. By the time the sun set, she was riding figure eights, weaving between cones, feeling the bike respond to her every movement like it was an extension of her body. When she finally stopped, she was grinning so wide her face hurt. "That was amazing," she said. "You're a natural," Gregory said, "just like your brother." That night, they had a celebration at the garage. The whole crew showed up, along with Rebecca, Emily, Martha, and Patricia. Lucy made chili. Terry brought beer. Jimmy set up a sound system and played classic rock at volumes that would have gotten them noise complaints if anyone lived close enough to complain. They ate and drank and told stories. Stories about Luther, about the roads he'd ridden, the bikes he'd built, the people he'd saved. And Sky listened, soaking it all in, building a picture of her brother from the memories of people who'd loved him. When the night wound down and people started heading home, Gregory called everyone together. He pulled out a leather vest, a cut and club terminology, custom made with patches stitched across the back. At the top, Ironjaw's MC. In the center, a new patch, Sky's design, the jawbone and serpent rendered in stunning detail, flames curling up from the base. And beneath it, Hollow's legacy. Gregory handed the vest to Sky. "You're not a full member," he said. "You're too young for that. But you're family, and this is how we show it." Sky slipped the vest on. It fit perfectly. The crew erupted in cheers. Terry clapped her on the back. Jimmy whistled. Rebecca hugged her tight. And Gregory, tough, stoic Gregory, who never showed emotion, had tears in his eyes. "Welcome home, kid," he said. Sky looked around at the faces surrounding her. The people who'd fought for her, protected her, refused to give up on her even when the odds were impossible. This was her family now. Not the one she'd been born into, but the one she'd chosen. The one that had chosen her back. "Thank you," she said. "For everything. You don't have to thank us," Gregory said. "You're one of us now." That night, Sky slept better than she had in years. No nightmares, no fear, just the quiet certainty that she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The next morning, she woke up early and went to the garage. She stood in front of the mural, the one showing Luther riding toward the light, and she made a promise. She'd live the life he couldn't. She'd fight the fights he'd started. She'd protect the people who needed protecting. She'd paint beauty into a world that desperately needed it. And she'd never forget where she came from, or who she'd lost, or what it cost to get here. She picked up a brush and started a new piece. Not a memorial this time. Something different. A horizon. Open road stretching into infinity. A single rider heading toward the sunrise, free and unafraid. And behind that rider, barely visible but unmistakably there, a second figure. Smaller, following, learning, becoming. Gregory found her hours later still painting. "What's this one?" he asked. Sky stepped back to look at her work. "The future," she said. Gregory smiled. "I like it." They stood there together looking at the painting, at the promise it represented. And somewhere on a road, they couldn't see, Luther was riding too. Free at last, proud of the sister who'd finished what he started, grateful for the family that had kept his promise when he couldn't. The iron jaws roared on, and Sky Holloway, 14 years old, orphaned, broken, and rebuilt, rode with them. Not as a victim, not as a runaway, but as Hollow's legacy, and that legacy would never die.